The small mountain town was always quiet, but that evening something strange happened near the old river. A group of children were playing when they heard a soft cry coming from the bushes. At first, they thought it was a hurt cat or maybe a small bird. But when they moved the leaves aside, they stepped back in fear. There, sitting in wet grass, was a tiny creature. It was no bigger than a kitten, with soft glowing skin and bright blue eyes that looked too human to ignore. The creature tried to stand, but its legs were shaking. The children screamed and ran to tell the adults. Soon, people gathered around, whispering and taking videos on their phones. Some said it looked dangerous. Others said it might be an experiment from a secret lab. A few joked nervously that it could be an alien. No one knew what she really was, and no one stepped close enough to check. The creature curled into a small ball, frightened by the noise and the crowd. Among the people walking by was Evan, a quiet young man who liked to visit the river every evening. He was tired from work and planned to sit alone for a while, but the sound of voices pulled his attention. When he reached the crowd, he saw everyone pointing at something. But when he finally stepped forward and looked at the tiny creature, he did not react the same way as the others. Where the crowd saw something strange, Evan saw a pair of gentle, scared eyes. The creature lifted its head for a moment, and their eyes met. Evan felt something in that instant, a connection he could not explain. The creature did not look dangerous. She looked lost. While others kept shouting, Evan noticed something important. The creature's eyes were not wild or animal-like. They were soft, emotional, and almost human. She blinked slowly, as if she was trying to speak but could not find the strength or confidence. People around him made guesses. "It's a monster," one man said. "No, it's a deformed animal," another woman argued. A teenager laughed and said, "Maybe it's a baby alien." But Evan ignored them. He took a slow step forward. The creature looked up again. This time, she reached her tiny hand toward him. Her fingers were small, delicate, almost like those of a child. The moment was quiet, and for a second, the entire world around him faded. Evan knelt down. "It's okay," he whispered gently, though he did not know if she understood. The creature tilted her head. A soft blue light glowed around her for a moment, then faded. Evan felt warmth in his chest, like she was trying to say something. People behind him gasped, thinking the glow was a sign of danger. But Evan did not move away. He reached out his hand slowly. The creature hesitated, then touched his fingers with her tiny hand. The touch was warm and trembling, like she was scared but hopeful. At that moment, something unbelievable happened. A tiny voice, so soft that no one else heard it, reached Evan's ears. It whispered his name, Van. Evan froze. The creature knew him? How? He looked around, but everyone else was still talking loudly. It was clear that only he heard her voice. His heart beat faster. He stared at the tiny creature. No, he realized, the tiny girl. She was not an animal. She was not a monster. She was a girl, trapped in a small body, confused and afraid. Suddenly, the crowd started moving closer again. Someone said they should call the police. Another person said they should trap the creature before it escaped. Fear and confusion grew even louder. The tiny girl panicked. She crawled closer to Evan and hid behind his leg. Evan felt a strong urge rise inside him, an urge to protect her. "Stop," Evan said firmly, standing between the girl and the crowd. "She's scared. Leave her alone." People stared at him like he was crazy. Why would he defend something so strange? But Evan didn't care. He knew something that they did not. He knew she was not tiny by nature. She was tiny because something terrible had happened to her. And he knew one more thing. She needed him, and only him, to survive. This was the moment everything changed. The world saw a tiny creature, but Evan saw the truth. He saw the girl inside. Evan stood between the tiny girl and the crowd, unsure what to do next. His heart was beating fast, and his hands felt slightly cold. The people behind him whispered and argued, but he did not move. He could feel the tiny girl holding the edge of his jeans with her small trembling fingers. She was scared, terrified, and she trusted only him. The sun was almost gone now, and the sky turned a deep blue. The shadows around the river grew longer, making the tiny girl look even smaller than before. Evan slowly bent down so he could look at her face again. Her glowing blue eyes met his, and the same soft warmth flowed through his chest. It was a feeling that told him she was not here to harm anyone. "What happened to you?" He whispered. Her lips moved, but the words were too soft to understand. Her voice was like a weak echo, fading with every breath. Evan leaned in closer. She tried again, but nothing clear came out. Then she touched her chest with her tiny hand and pointed at the sky. Evan understood only one thing. She wasn't from this world. Someone in the crowd took a loud step forward. "Move!" a man shouted. "We need to call animal control or something." The girl panicked again and hid behind Evan's shoulder. Without thinking, Evan held out his hand to stop the man. "She's not hurting anyone," Evan said. "Just give her space." The man snorted. "You don't even know what it is." Evan looked down at her again. "I know enough," he said quietly. He didn't know why he felt so sure of it, but deep inside he knew she was not tiny by choice. Something had happened, something that changed her body. He had seen the way she glowed earlier, the way her voice echoed, the fear in her eyes. She was not a creature. She was a girl, trapped in a form she could not escape. The girl lightly tugged at his sleeve. When he turned, she pointed toward the dark woods, away from the town, away from the people. Her eyes begged him to take her somewhere safe. "You want me to follow you?" he asked softly. She nodded, weak but clear. Evan looked at the crowd. If he stayed any longer, someone would call the authorities, or worse, someone might try to capture her. He couldn't let that happen. "All right," he whispered. "Let's go." He stepped backward slowly, keeping himself between her and the people. The girl stayed close behind him, almost touching his heel with every step. They moved toward the trees while the crowd murmured in confusion. "Where are they going?" Someone asked. "Why is he taking that thing with him? Should we follow?" But the darkness of the woods came quickly, and soon Evan and the tiny girl disappeared behind the tall trees, safe from the curious eyes of the town. Inside the forest, the air was colder. The leaves rustled softly with the evening wind. Evan walked carefully, making sure he did not go too fast. The girl's small legs struggled to keep up, but she followed him with determination. After a few minutes, she stopped suddenly. She touched a tree trunk and pressed her forehead against it, breathing hard. A faint blue light passed from her hands into the bark. Evan watched in surprise as the tree's surface changed slightly, revealing a hidden hollow space big enough for her tiny body. Inside the hollow was a small device, round, metallic, broken in several places and glowing with the same soft blue light as her eyes. Evan knelt beside her. "Is that yours?" She nodded, then placed both hands on the device. It flickered weakly, showing small holographic images, blurry planets, strange symbols, and a ship crashing. Evan's eyes widened. He wasn't imagining it. She truly came from another world. The tiny girl pointed to the ship in the hologram, then touched her own chest. Her eyes filled with tears. Evan understood without needing words. She had crashed here. She had lost her normal form. She needed help. The device flickered again and showed a shadow, a tall, dark creature following the ship's trail. The girl shook her head quickly, fear rising again. Evan realized someone or something was coming for her. He swallowed hard. "You're not safe, are you?" She shook her head. Evan took a deep breath. He felt fear too, but stronger than that fear was something else, a responsibility. She had chosen him. She whispered his name. She trusted him completely. "Don't worry," he said gently. "I won't leave you alone." The girl slowly reached out and touched his hand again, her eyes shining brighter than before, for the first time since she crashed. She felt hope that in Evan, without knowing how or why, had already decided he would protect her. No matter what, the forest grew darker as night settled in, and the tiny alien girl stayed close to Evan, holding the broken device in her trembling hands. The cold air brushed against her glowing skin, making her shiver. Evan noticed it immediately. "You're cold," he said softly. She nodded, her small body curled in on itself for warmth. Evan knew he couldn't leave her outside. The forest was not safe, and she was too weak to survive alone. He remembered an old cabin deeper in the woods, a place he had visited many times to escape the world. It wasn't much, but it was quiet, hidden and safe. "Come on," he said gently. "I know a place where you can rest." The girl looked up at him with tired, grateful eyes. She took a shaky step forward, then another, following him as he led her through the trees. The forest floor crackled under their feet, and distant owls called from above. Now and then the girl would stop and look around nervously, as if sensing something far away, something she feared. After a slow, careful walk, they reached the cabin. It was small, made of old wood, with a slightly broken window and a door that squeaked when pushed open. But to Evan, it felt safe. And right now, safety was all she needed. He bent down and opened the door. "Let's go inside." The girl hesitated. She stared at the dark doorway, then at him. She wanted to trust him fully, but she was scared of being trapped again. Evan understood without words. "You can stay near the door if you want," he said softly. "I won't close it. You're free." The girl blinked, surprised by his kindness. Then she stepped inside. The warm light from Evan's small lantern filled the room, casting soft shadows across the wooden floor. The girl sat near the wall, still holding the glowing device. Evan watched her for a moment. Even in her tiny form, she looked human, not in shape, but in emotion. Her fear, her hope, her sadness, they were all familiar. He finally spoke. "Can you understand me?" She tilted her head, then nodded slowly. "Can you speak?" he asked. She opened her mouth, but only a soft sound came out, like a broken whisper. She shook her head sadly, as if ashamed. "It's okay," Evan said. "You don't have to talk." Her eyes filled with relief. She gently tapped the broken device and pointed to her tiny body. Evan understood she couldn't speak properly because of the damage. The crash must have hurt her voice, maybe even her real form. The girl placed the device on the floor and tapped it again. A faint hologram appeared, weak and flickering, but clear enough for Evan to understand. It showed a tall, beautiful alien girl who looked almost human, with glowing hair and bright blue eyes. She stood inside a large ship, wearing strange armor and holding something important. The girl touched the hologram, then touched her own chest. Evan understood immediately. The girl in the hologram, tall, strong, beautiful, was her. She had once been full-sized. Not tiny, not weak, not scared. Something in the crash had changed her, shrinking her body and draining her energy. She stared at the hologram with deep sadness, as if mourning the version of herself she lost. "You used to be like this," Evan whispered. She nodded slowly, tears forming in her eyes. The hologram changed again. It showed a giant shadow creature chasing her ship. The creature looked powerful, with long claws and glowing red eyes. A terrible fear washed over the tiny girl as she watched the image. Her hands shook. "You're running from that?" Evan asked. She nodded again, faster this time, her breath shaking. Evan felt a chill. Something that big and dangerous chasing someone so small, it felt unfair. The hologram shut off, the device's power fading again. The girl hugged her knees and curled up on the floor. Evan sat down beside her, leaving enough space so she wouldn't feel trapped. He spoke gently. "You're not alone now. Whatever happened, you're safe here." She looked up, and for the first time, she reached out and touched his hand, not in fear, but in trust. A soft blue glow surrounded his fingers. It was warm and peaceful, like she was saying thank you without words. Evan felt something shift inside him. He wasn't just protecting her because she needed help. He was protecting her because she mattered to him. The tiny girl closed her eyes, resting against the wall. Her breathing slowed, and Evan stayed awake, watching over her like a guardian. He didn't know what would happen next. He didn't know who or what was coming for her. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He would not let anything hurt her again. Not now. Not ever. Evan barely slept that night. He stayed near the tiny alien girl, listening to her soft breathing while his mind raced with fear and questions. The broken hologram had shown a creature huge, dark, and powerful, and the image kept replaying in his mind like a warning. He didn't know what that creature was, but he knew it was hunting her, and it was getting closer. Just before dawn, the girl suddenly woke up. Her eyes glowed brighter than usual, and her small hands gripped Evan's shirt tightly. She looked terrified. Before Evan could ask anything, a loud humming sound echoed from the sky, low and strange. Unlike any airplane he had ever heard, the girl pointed outside. With shaking fingers, something was coming. Evan rushed to the cabin door and peeked outside. The early morning sky was still dark, but a bright flash appeared far off, near the river where they first met. It wasn't lightning. It was controlled, steady, unnatural, almost like a spotlight searching the ground. He felt the girl press close behind him. Her tiny body trembled harder with every pulse of light. "Is it the creature?" he whispered. She shook her head slowly, then pointed upward. Her eyes filled with a different kind of fear. Evan followed her gaze and froze. Large triangular aircraft was floating silently in the sky. It didn't make any noise except for a deep vibrating hum. Blue lights circled underneath it, moving in slow patterns like scanning signals. It wasn't from Earth. Anyone could see that. But then another sound came. This one was familiar. Helicopters from the opposite side of the forest. 2 Army helicopters appeared, their spinning blades slicing through the early morning mist. Their searchlights turned on, sweeping the trees like they were hunting something. Evan's heart dropped. It wasn't only aliens searching for her. Humans were now involved. The tiny girl tugged at his sleeve, again and pointed at her device. She tried to activate it, but it only made a weak spark and shut down. She looked helpless, frustrated, and scared. Evan knelt beside her. "It's okay. I'm here. But we need to stay hidden." Suddenly a loud metallic voice echoed from the distance. "Unit 1 deploy drones. Search Area 37. Evan's blood ran cold. They were coming into the woods. He blew out the small lantern, grabbed the girl, and moved deeper into the cabin's shadows. They stayed completely still as the sound of machines grew louder. Then he saw them, small spherical drones floating between the trees, blinking red as they scanned the area with thin beams of light. They were fast, quiet, and dangerous. One beam touched the cabin wall, and the wood glowed faintly before returning to normal. If that beam touched her, they would find her immediately. Evan gently placed the girl inside a wooden storage box with small gaps for air. She shook her head, frightened, not wanting to be separated from him. He touched her hand softly. "You'll be safe. Please trust me." After a long hesitation, she nodded and curled inside the box. Evan closed the lid halfway, leaving enough space for her to breathe and watch him. Outside, heavy boots hit the ground. Soldiers moved through the trees with rifles ready. Their flashlights brightened the forest. A soldier stopped right in front of the cabin and pointed. "There's a structure here. Check it." Evan's heart pounded so loud he thought they would hear it. The cabin door burst open, and 2 soldiers entered. Their helmets had glowing green visors, and their steps were sharp and cold. "Clear," one said. "But something's off." The other soldier scanned the room with a handheld device. The screen flickered. "Unregistered energy detected," he said. "It was here recently." Evan held his breath. The soldier turned slowly toward the storage box. Evan stepped between them. "It's just old junk," he said, trying to sound calm. "Nothing special." The soldier stared at him for a long moment. "You live here?" "No," Evan replied. "I just come here sometimes." After another tense second, the soldier turned away. "Let's move." The signal's shifting. They left the cabin. Evan waited until their footsteps faded, then opened the box. The girl climbed out, shaking and holding onto him tightly. "You're okay," he whispered. "They didn't find you." But she pointed upward again, her face turning pale with fear. Evan stepped outside and saw it too. The triangular alien aircraft had stopped moving. Its lights glowed red instead of blue. It was searching more aggressively now. Something else was coming, not human. This time the real hunter was near, and the tiny girl. Felt it first. Evan held the tiny alien girl tightly as the red lights from the triangular ship flashed across the sky. The cabin no longer felt safe. The soldiers were still nearby, and the alien ship was moving with purpose, as if it knew exactly what it was looking for. The tiny girl's glowing eyes widened with fear. She could sense something powerful and dangerous. Evan knelt down in front of her. "We can't stay here," he whispered. "They'll find you." The girl nodded slowly. She pointed toward the deeper part of the forest, where the trees were thicker and shadows were darker. She knew where safety was, or at least where danger was not. Evan grabbed the blanket from the cabin and wrapped it gently around her small body to keep her warm. She held onto his shirt with her tiny hands, trusting him completely. That trust made Evan feel something strong inside, something he hadn't felt in years. Responsibility, courage, a need to protect someone who couldn't protect herself. He picked her up carefully and stepped outside. The forest looked different, now almost alive with fear. The air trembled with the hum of distant machines. Leaves rustled even without wind. "Stay close," he whispered. As they moved deeper into the woods, the girl tapped his shoulder and pointed to one side. Evan saw it immediately. Black drones sweeping through the trees, their red scanning beams slicing across branches. He dropped to the ground quickly and hid behind a fallen tree trunk. The tiny girl placed her hand on his wrist. Her eyes closed. Suddenly, Evan heard a faint hum in the air around them. It felt like energy, soft and warm. The girl was using her strength, but carefully. The drone passed by without detecting them, the scanning beam sliding right over their heads without reacting. Evan looked at her in surprise. You protected us?" The girl nodded weakly. She touched her chest, showing him she didn't have much energy left. Every time she used her powers, she grew weaker. "We need to hurry," Evan said softly. They continued walking until the forest floor became thicker with roots. The light from the sky disappeared under the tall canopy. For a moment, Evan thought they were safe. Then the girl suddenly froze. Her eyes widened. Her glow dimmed. She pointed behind them, shaking violently. Evan turned around. In the distance, through the trees, he saw a large black silhouette moving slowly, but with purpose. It was tall, with long arms and glowing red eyes, just like the hologram the girl had shown him. The creature moved silently, almost floating between the trees. It was hunting her. Evan felt fear rise in his throat. He had never faced something like this. He didn't have weapons, armor, or a plan. But when he looked down at the tiny girl shivering, scared, clinging to his jacket, something inside him lit up. He couldn't run forever. He couldn't leave her. And he definitely couldn't let that monster take her. "We're going to make it," he whispered firmly. The creature moved closer. its heavy steps shaking the ground slightly. Evan grabbed a long wooden branch lying on the ground. It wasn't much, but it was something. The girl tugged on his arm, trying to pull him away, but Evan shook his head. "I won't let it have you," he said. The creature stopped about 30 meters away. It tilted its head, studying them. Its red eyes glowed brighter, and a deep growl vibrated the air. The girl jumped forward and touched Evan's chest with both hands. A sudden wave of warmth passed through him. It wasn't strong, but it made him feel braver, more focused. She was giving him what little strength she had left. "Thank you," Evan whispered. The creature took another step forward. Evan stood his ground. But just before the creature launched itself toward them, a sudden bright light shot down from the sky, the alien aircraft. The beams focused on the creature, not on Evan or the girl. The creature roared in anger. The girl pointed upward, signaling something important. The ship wasn't hunting her now. It was hunting the creature. For the first time, Evan understood. There were two alien forces. One wanted to protect her. One wanted to capture or kill her. But neither force cared about humans standing in between. The creature leaped away, into the shadows, avoiding the ship's beam. The aircraft began scanning the forest aggressively, shaking leaves and branches. Evan held the girl close. "We can't stay. We run, now." She nodded, her eyes full of trust and fear. And so, with danger closing in from every direction, Evan and the tiny girl fled deeper into the forest, not knowing if they were running toward hope or into even greater danger. But one thing was certain: Evan had chosen his side. He would protect her, no matter what. Evan and the tiny alien girl ran deeper into the forest, their footsteps soft but fast. Branches scraped against Evan's arms, leaves brushed past his face, and every sound behind them made his heart beat faster. He could still hear the creature's distant growl and the loud humming of the alien aircraft overhead. The girl clung to Evan's shoulder, her small fingers gripping tightly. She was losing energy. The glow of her skin had faded, and her eyes looked heavy. Evan could feel her breathing growing weaker. She needed safety, and soon. "We're almost safe," Evan whispered, though he didn't know if it was true. The forest suddenly opened into a rocky area. Old boulders and twisted roots created shadows everywhere. Evan paused to catch his breath. The girl gently tapped his neck, pointing behind a large rock. "You want to hide there?" Evan asked. She nodded weakly. He moved behind the rock and placed her gently on the ground. She sat with her knees pulled close, her eyes half closed. Evan knelt beside her. "You're exhausted," he said softly. She pointed at her chest, her energy core, then at the device she carried. Evan understood. The device was damaged, and without it, she couldn't heal or return to her real form. Before he could speak again, the ground trembled. A deep, heavy thud echoed through the forest. Then another. Evan felt the hair on his arms rise. He slowly looked up and saw a huge shadow moving between the trees. The creature was back, and this time, it wasn't hiding. Its tall, dark body appeared from behind the trees, its red eyes glowing like burning coals. Its long fingers scraped the dirt as it walked, leaving deep marks. It growled, low and threatening, and the growl vibrated through Evan's chest. The girl gasped and hid behind Evan. Her tiny body shook violently. Evan swallowed hard. He stood in front of her, holding only a wooden branch he had picked up earlier. It wasn't enough. It wasn't even close. But he didn't step aside. The creature took a step closer. Its breath came out in a cold mist. It lifted its head, sniffing the air, then growled again, louder this time. It had found her. The aircraft above them moved suddenly. Its blue lights shifted to white, shining directly into the forest. The humming grew louder. The ship was trying to track the creature, but the creature was too fast, too intelligent. It moved in the shadows, avoiding the light. The girl grabbed Evan's wrist suddenly. Her small hand glowed faintly. She placed her palm against his chest. A warm wave of energy spread through him. It wasn't strong, but it made him feel clearer, braver. The girl was giving him the last bit of her strength. Her eyes begged him to survive, even if she didn't. "No," Evan whispered. "I'm not leaving you." The creature lunged forward. Evan pushed the girl behind the rock and swung the wooden branch with all his strength. The branch hit the creature's arm, but it barely reacted. The creature grabbed the branch and snapped it in half like a toothpick. Evan stumbled backward, fear filling his chest, but just as the creature reached out to grab him, the alien aircraft shot a beam of light between them. The beam hit the ground, sending a shockwave through the air. Dirt and leaves exploded upward. The creature roared in anger. It leaped away, avoiding the beam again, circling around. Evan looked up at the ship. For a moment, he wondered if it was protecting the girl or simply hunting the creature. Maybe both. But it didn't matter. The danger was still everywhere. The girl crawled out from behind the rock. Her eyes glowed brighter suddenly, as if something inside her was waking up. She lifted her hand, and the broken device beside her flickered to life for the first time since the crash. A soft blue ring of energy surrounded her body. She looked taller only an inch or two, but noticeable. Her form was slowly restoring. The creature sensed the change and roared again. It charged at her with full speed. Evan didn't think. He jumped in front of her, arms spread wide, ready to face whatever came. But before the creature could reach them, the girl unleashed a burst of blue energy. The wave hit the creature like a lightning strike, knocking it backward into the trees. It crashed into a fallen log, roaring in shock and pain. The girl collapsed to her knees, breathing hard. The glow faded again. Evan rushed to her. "Are you okay?" She nodded weakly, then pointed at the stunned creature. It was getting back up. Slowly, angrily, the girl looked at Evan with desperate eyes. She had one message for him. This was not the final battle. The real fight was still ahead. The creature rose slowly from the broken log, shaking off bits of wood. Its glowing red eyes burned brighter with rage. The blue energy blast from the tiny girl had pushed it back, but it had not defeated it. Far from it. Now it was angrier, and its focus was clearer. It wanted the girl, and it would destroy anything standing in its way. Evan stood in front of her again, his body shaking, but his feet firmly planted. He could feel his legs trembling, but he refused to move. Behind him, the girl struggled to sit up. Her small body was weak from using too much power. The blue ring of energy that had briefly appeared around her had faded, leaving only a faint glow. The creature took a step forward, claws dragging against the dirt with a scraping sound that shot fear straight through Evan's spine. He gripped a broken tree branch, not a weapon, but the only thing he had left. The alien aircraft hovered above the trees. Its lights flickered from white to blue, scanning the battle. It was not close enough to stop the creature in time. Everything would come down to this moment. Evan felt like the world had shrunk to just two things, him and the monster. Then he felt a small hand behind him. The girl touched his back. A soft warmth spread through him again, but this time it was different, stronger, deeper, like a steady heartbeat of light. He turned his head slightly. She looked up at him with glowing blue eyes filled with determination. She pointed at his chest, then at herself. Together, Evan nodded. "I'm with you, always." The creature roared and charged. Evan stepped forward, ready to take the hit, but suddenly, the girl stood up. Her tiny body glowed from head to toe. The broken device beside her began to rise into the air, pieces clicking and spinning as if repairing themselves. Blue light filled the space around them, bright enough to push back the darkness of the forest. Evan turned in awe. The girl's form was changing, her tiny hands stretched, growing longer and more human-shaped. Her legs grew stronger, her body taller. The glow intensified, swirling around her like a cocoon. the creature stopped mid-charge. Stunned, the aircraft above them changed direction instantly, its lights shifting to gold. The forest grew silent as the girl rose from the ground, floating a few inches above the dirt. Her hair grew long and silver, her eyes brighter than stars. Her small, fragile body transformed into her real self, the tall, radiant alien girl from the hologram. She landed softly on the ground. Her appearance was beautiful, gentle, and powerful all at once. She was no longer tiny. She was the girl she had been before the crash, the girl her people trusted, the girl the creature feared. Evan stared speechless. "You," he whispered. "You're back." She nodded, her new voice soft but strong. "Because of you." The creature roared again, but this time the roar had fear in it. The girl stepped forward, raising her hand. A bright beam of blue energy shot from her palm and hit the creature in the chest. The force threw it backward, smashing it into the rock so hard that the ground shook. The creature tried to rise, but she lifted both hands and created a barrier of light around it. The barrier closed in slowly, trapping the creature inside. It screamed, clawing at the light, but the cage was too strong. Finally, the creature fell silent. The girl lowered her hands. The barrier dimmed and dissolved, leaving behind nothing. Evan stared at the empty ground where the creature had been. His legs finally gave out, and he dropped to his knees in exhaustion. The girl turned to him and gently lifted him to his feet. Her eyes shimmered with emotion. "You protected me," she said quietly, "when I had no strength, when no one else saw me." Evan shook his head. "I only did what was right." She placed her hand on his cheek. "No, you saw the girl I was, even when I looked tiny and broken." Evan felt warmth in his chest, deeper than fear, stronger than courage. The aircraft descended slowly, its blue lights soft and welcoming. A door opened underneath it, releasing a warm glow. The girl looked at Evan. "I must return," she said. "But my journey is not over. And neither is yours." Evan swallowed hard. "Will I ever see you again?" She smiled, a gentle, glowing smile that lit the forest. "Yes, you are my guardian. And my friend. Our paths will cross again when your world needs hope." She stepped toward the beam of light but paused, turning back one last time. She pressed her hand against his chest, leaving a small blue mark of energy, warm and comforting. "A part of my power," she said, "to keep you safe." Then she entered the beam. The aircraft rose slowly and disappeared into the sky. Leaving the forest in silence, Evan stood alone, staring into the stars. But he didn't feel alone, because he knew the truth. He had saved her life, and she had changed his forever. Humanity would one day learn the full story. But Evan? He already knew. The smallest girl he ever met was actually the universe's greatest hope.